Hey guys, it's Disaster Area here, and I want to take you through a team that I built a couple months back, I think, at this point, with a little bit of help from Cowboy Dan as well, who I have to shout out right from the off. This is a team which, as you can see here, that before getting banned, as is something that known to happen to me, I did manage to peak the Gen 3 OU ladder by 36 points at 1680. It's not the most impressive one, especially since it took me over 100 games to even get to past the 1500 mark. But this team, I think, both is one of those ones where I've got a little twisty twist on the standard in a way that's still pretty big. One of those ones that I think you'll find has got my signature all over it, while at the same time I think is actually an extremely solid and playable team with a lot of really nice synergies, and that makes the unique idea behind my team really pop. So the original conception of the team, I guess, at least how I'd like to tell it, is starting with Hydro Pump Gyarados. So there's a couple different things that make Gyarados special with Hydro Pump. Firstly, is the most obvious one, is targeting Aerodactyl for an absolute crap ton. It does around 65% minimum if you just have an uninvested but neutral Hydro Pump. Does more than Surf by a substantial amount. Has Stab as well, so you can use it against other things as well. But one of the things that I think is most significant about it, actually, even though the damage is not impressive, is what it does against Skarmory. Now, against specially defensive Skarmory, it does a minimum of around 25%. Now, while that's not much, without running Thunderbolt or Fire Blast, you're not really doing anything more than that to Skarmory, and that's enough to significantly outdamage protecting leftovers. And it's enough, especially if it's like a sleep or something, to not have to instantly switch out after you've boosted up with Gyarados. The other advantage, I guess, as well, is that you can hit like Aerodactyl, and to a much, much lesser extent Zapdos, well, mostly Aerodactyl, without having to give up Hidden Power Flying. And the main reasons you want to do that to absolutely stink on Celebi, which otherwise doesn't really care if you don't have Hidden Power Flying. And also check fighting types of Medicham, Breloom, and Heracross, most importantly. So that's sort of the thinking behind the set, rather than doing like Hidden Power Rock and Double Edge or Taunt DD or something like that. Those are all like valid options, and they work reasonably well on other teams. But on this team, I sort of took advantage of the fact that Hydro Pump sort of lets me hold some tempo against Skarmory, and then build a team where instead of using Magneton to take out Skarmory, I've got a couple of other tools offensively that do that. And in that case, that's Choice Band Metagross and Breloom, both of which can effectively put Skarmory out of the game, or at the very least do a heavy amount of damage to it. And then the team has quite a lot of support, so I would say the team is built in a way where you've got those two very offensive wall-breaking Pokemon, Metagross and Breloom, and then the rest is sort of defending and covering up for sort of the flaws of the initial core. So there's three different parts of that. The first is Claydol, which besides answering a few important threats like Salamence and Flygon, is providing Rapid Spin. So once you've neutered Skarmory, even if it gets a Spike Slayer, it's still well, it lets you not worry so much about giving Skarm a little bit of room in the first place. You can afford to wear it down over a couple of attacks, let it get up a spike in return for getting in Breloom and landing Sleep and so on, and getting tempo that way. Plus, it also provides an explosion. So there's so much it does. It also absorbs Thunderbolts from Zapdos, which helps you pivot in Snorlax on a Hidden Power or Toxic, which is a pretty nifty little trick. Obviously, you can't over-rely on it, but it's one of those things that helps make the team more flexible. Then you've also got Snorlax, so primarily against Starmie and against Zapdos, those are the two sort of biggest special threats that it helps against. It also helps a little bit against like Jirachi, against Suicune as well. Although with like some of these other threats, there's other members of the team which help cover that. So I think this team does like a good job in like making Lax really good because it does something which Cowboy advocates a lot, which is like pair it with secondary checks to a bunch of special attackers so that it can afford to come in and do its job when it's really necessary. Another bit is it's a really good like additional breaker once it gets in. I think that Lax is a really good breaker if you give it the space to work, which is partly why like the Yawn Snorlax set is also so good. Shout out Linear for running that in SPL. Love you forever. But yeah, that's a part of Snorlax is just it's a great Pokemon when you put in the effort to really make it work. And this is one of those teams where I think I've done that. And then there's Tyranitar at the end, which is a Pursuit Tyranitar. You have three Pokemon, well, 3 or 4 different Pokemon. Well, nothing here really loves Gengar. Potentially you can sleep it. Gyarados, Snorlax, and Claydol can all hit it, but none of them really want to, since as you'll see, the Claydol's running Ice Beam rather than Psychic. So it's just really crucial for that alone. Sand is also quite nice, but it's interestingly got a free slot at the end, which I'm currently using Brick Break on it, but it's quite flexible. So let me show you the actual importable. I'll post a link of this down in the description as well. You can see opening with Choice Band Metagross so that I don't have to lead with Breloom because you don't want to give the opponent the initiative when they've got like a Zapdos or a Salamence or so on. A Metagross is very threatening. I like to lead off with Brick Break if I see a Tyranitar so that if it's a Skarmory or a Magneton or a Swampert or whatever comes in, getting off some clean damage, I'm not getting it trapped, and I can bring it in later when I've got a better sense of what I'm facing and get the most out of it then. Yeah, there are some other sort of comments I've got, like on the EVs, for example, with Gyarados, I've gone negative special defense. Since I need both attacks, I need the speed. And then I decided that it's more important to keep the defense because you're dealing with fighting types and Metagross and so on, which is part of what it helps against defensively, although it's absolutely not a defensive Behemoth. It's got enough to work with. Although I dearly wish to Intimidate affected Metagross, but alas, it doesn't. But one notable thing is that it outspeeds Adamant Heracross, and it isn't one-hit KO'd at full by a Sword Stance boosted Rock Slide from Heracross if you've intimidated it. So at full, it is a Heracross check, which is really nifty because that's one of the Pokemon that really scares this team. I should probably make a note maybe about like the Breloom set. So originally with Breloom, I've been running it since like 2017 on and off. Originally, when I first ran Breloom on separate teams, I would run Spore, Stun Spore, like Brick Break, Hidden Power Bug, which I don't think is a terrible set, but the idea was like, I was like, well, just make Breloom deal with Celebi, and just the idea of making it an amazing status platform. And it's not that that's bad, but there are things that it's kind of a bit better if you don't worry about Celebi like that and just have the rest of your team built to frustrate Celebi in other ways. So on this too, I've got Claydol that can explode on it, Snorlax that can explode on it, Tyranitar that can crunch and pursue it, Metagross that can come in and fire off medium ashes on it, and Gyarados that can fly. I mean, this team has plenty of tools to bother Celebi with. So, like in general, I think it's gone a good direction where Hidden Power Bug and Hidden Power Ghost aren't really seen much on it. They're not useless, but most teams don't need it. But the reason I don't have like Stun Spore here is I did want all of those 3 moves, and I generally view Stun Spore and Focus Punch as sort of being your 2 different options. Unless you're on a team that doesn't really do Map Punch. But I view both of those as moves that you use on stuff that's switching in, so Gengars after you sport, Salamances and so on. And it's an amazing move, but I needed Focus Punch here because if I spore a Skarmory, I need to be able to scare it out and keep tempo and just do more damage. And if like a Zapdos switches in, then that's perfect because I need Metagross and Breloom to chip down on Zapdos and Skarmory in particular. to be able to enable Gyarados to do just about anything. Yeah, with I think maybe one other thing I'll note if I let me switch scenes to this. I've got some battles I'll show, but first I want to open up the calc. If you give me a come on, there we go. Yeah, I should have had this open before. You can see I've probably got like everything else meticulously planned, but I didn't think to open up the calc, and now my internet's going to be slow. But I just wanted to show you one thing that you might have noticed, which is GyaraLoom's EVs and how I've stuck a bit of special defense on it. Now, firstly, I'll note that Jolly is just 100% the right move. There's just so much stuff between Animant and Jolly. Just a base 70, there's just... It's a crucial speed tier, stuff that's in that range you don't want to worry about. Like one of the things you'll see, for example, is like Suicunes and slow Jirachis and Celebes and so on that you want to have the speed advantage on. But what that special defense really does for you is let me pull this up and give this a real spread. I don't know why the calc has still got a stupid Blissey spread, but let me see how this is looking on OBS. Oh, wait, yeah, that's unpaused. Yeah, a little bit of cinema magic there. But this is really the calc that makes a difference, especially since I'm not leading off with Tyrannodar and so on. This bit of special defense can really help out always surviving outside of sand, Blissey's Ice Beam, and also Swampurt's Ice Beam as well, comfortably surviving that. So even more offensive Swampurts, maybe you have a chance if I try and pull that up as well. Yeah, even if like this, gosh, max special attack Swampert, which I don't know. Maybe you guys run that for something you might see, but even there, the odds of that killing outside of sand are actually not even that good. So that's pretty big to me. I think the attack's still good enough to do what I want, which includes stuff like checking DD Tar, killing offensive part when it's weak, doing 50% odd to Doug Trio. It's got that partnership with Proceed Tyranitar, which is something you might have picked up on as well. Another one of those little synergies in here, although this team isn't so scared of Doug Trio. It's not that huge of a deal, but it is one of those things that the team does have going for it. But yeah, it's got enough attack to do its job, even with only 200 neutral. And the speed and Spadef are both extremely valuable. Speaking of like EV spreads as well, Metagross and Claydol both have a bit more Spadef than you might normally see, given the sets. And there are some notable sort of reasons behind that. So if I go with Mixmance, that's not got the right spread. I think it's 1656. You can see there with the 232 special attack variant, Metagross is EV to not be one-hit KO'd by Salamence. I don't think that's super huge because that was a change that I think I probably made before I stuck Ice Beam on Claydol, but it's still handy to have as Salamence is quite scary for this team, even with Claydol. And then with Claydol, something else that's nice here is that with the special defense I've been able to stick on it, it isn't one-hit KO'd by Starmie's Hydro Pump, which is just one of those nice little things, but it's also not that huge of a deal. But I just thought I'd sort of mention that. Starmie is one of those Pokemon that gets very scary in the late game and just clean you up, and every Pokemon you can have that isn't one-hit KO'd by it is pretty helpful, and as Claydol can often be left like to late in the game. That's certainly not a bad thing to have. Actually, since it really can afford it, the special defense is also nice to get Zapdos and so on. And you know, with with Brave. It's doing enough with Earthquake to annoy a lot of things and Explosion, and it actually hurts stuff, but it's still very bulky. So it's quite a nice best of both worlds, because the Ice Beam's doing what you need to like a Salamence, like huge amounts. So yeah, a lot to be happy with that. So what I might, oh, I forgot I wasn't showing the battles thing. No, the calc. So let me show a couple of those calcs real quick, just because I really should. You can tell that I've not done one of these videos in a hot minute, especially I've never done like a here's my team, let me look at it video. But maybe I'll do more of those in the future if I build some more cool stuff. But I have not been building in a long time, and I don't have any plans to in the future. Yeah, I'm sorry if the last bit was a little bit confusing without the visual cues, but maybe you can watch it like a BKC video and just go to sleep to it, and everybody's happy. But yeah, those you should see coming up on the screen like a bunch of the different calculations that I brought up. Where does that show Hidden Power Water? I've run Hydro Pump on Mix Mounts, but not Hidden Power Water. I don't think that's a good move. All right, let me switch over to showing some replays, though. Since I played, it was well over 200 games by the time that I hit the top. I think around 250-ish. I don't remember what side of it. I did a bit after I'd gotten about nearly 20 points into number one. I think it was around then that I got locked. I know that it was somebody in a Discord I was in who reported me, so I mean, no hard feelings, but like, why? Just like, why? As far as I'm aware, you're not somebody with like a grudge against me, so like, I don't know. But anyway, no hard feelings. People do that. It's well within their rights. But anyway, let me look. I don't remember how all of these games went, but these were all stuff after I changed the team a little bit. Previously, I had Ice Beam on Pursuit Tower and Psychic on Claydol, but this change, which I think was proposed by Alexander SK, I can't remember how you'd actually say that. I think it was him. It was that or that Iron Fist. I don't remember King of the Iron Fist. It's been a minute since I've worked on this team. All right, give me a break. But previously, I had Psychic on Claydol, and having Ice Beam on it is much better. But I've picked teams basically with more or less exactly as I've shown you in the importable, but much of the run was done with a slightly worse version. So anyway, this one, I mean, I'm gonna have them go through pretty quickly, as long as it works all right. This guy was 1592 when I was playing, and I was at 1512. So I think on the day that I hit number one, I started off at like 1540-ish. I played one game with this dumbass Nidoking team that I built, realized it was terrible, lost 30 points, and then this was when I was at 1512, and then just went on a winning streak all the way up to 1680 in one day. So this is sort of how it started. But in this team, you see me face off against a pretty standard team. You see how like the Brick Break on turn one caught someone who was presumably trying to catch the explosion. Is I sort of understood that's what the logic was behind that. So, but at the time I didn't realize that was what was going on. But I managed to Sleeper, Swampert, do heavy damage to a Starmie, and then anticipating that Skarmory would be coming in, landed a Focus Punch on it, and just in general exerting a lot of pressure here. I don't understand what that switch was about. Trying to bring in Blissey, but smashing Focus Punch with Snorlax, it is like this team is just like not that bothered about Skarmory. It's like, okay, I'll do 50%, and then like if it's got Brick Break, like Drill Pet, then okay, then I'll probably pivot in like Metagross or Tyranitar and exert pressure that way. But I'll get heavy damage on it, and I'll be able to spin the Spikes of Later. Skarmory's not that big of a deal on this. It's played very well. I'm glad that I've also decided to only show the video of the thing here and not all the text, because I did kind of shitpost this one guy and I kind of feel a bit bad about it in retrospect because I didn't understand the turn one move. And my guy just getting Brick Break to Oblivion with Tyranitar, it just seems so bad if you don't understand the thinking behind it. And I was just like shitposting your game because I was like, how are you like nearly 1600? So I feel bad about that because I was a bit mean. So, but anyway, this game was like a pretty clean win against like what like is fairly standard TSS. Oh, here like surviving Starmie comes in handy. I absorb the Hydro Pump and I just Earthquake in this case, because I just didn't nothing to worry about really. And yeah, just cleaning up with Explosion and so on. It was a pretty simple game. This one, so just thought it's a good one to show to just like whet the appetite and show this team in action. Come on, it's only like turn 17, 18, I'm already like borders all hell. Some of these are probably like a little bit longer, but one good thing with this team is it does play fast, and I did need a team that's like nice on the ladder. So it's been nice actually playing with offense for once. Like some of you may know that I naturally quite like to play very stallish stuff. Like Umbreon's like become a signature Pokemon, quote unquote, because I really like that sort of thing. Also, here's another little thing, just like Gyarados, after an Intimidate, survives a Rock Slide. I can just Dragon Dance, and then I think Hidden Power Flying just KOs here anyway. So, but the Hydro Pump came in handy in this particular game. So it didn't come in handy a lot when I was laddering, but it did come in handy a bit because nobody expects it, and it is like legitimately useful. People don't play in a way that assumes that, so even though they have like other Gyarados checks, they might be more relaxed with them and let them go. Maybe when if they knew my set, then they wouldn't. Yeah, this guy Mead, I heard he's a good guy. Like afterwards, here he's only 14-19, and I'm at 16-48, but I still have to win, don't I? God, why is the pictures not loading? Come on. There we go. I'm gonna stick this one also onto fast, but I do remember that this was another game where I was just like dominant and played the team in sort of this almost like formulaic way. Like I think when you're good at a generation of Pokemon, you should have like the first couple moves sort of very automatic. I do think with this team, let me just while this is playing as sort of background, just talk about like a few of the Pokemon that are quite scary for this team. So one of them, obviously, is Zapdos because often comes with like spike support and so on. While I've got like ways to pressure it and ways to pivot around it, it's such a strong Pokemon that it can exhaust all of your options pretty quickly. Plus the fact that as a lead, you can have Protect, you can have Substitute, and you can have Baton Pass. It makes going with Explosion with Metagross turn 1, which if you get it to hit, you would love it to, really risky. I have once had a Zapdos stay in Thunderbolt and crit me and KO my Metagross when I did Explosion, so that felt bad. But yeah, Metagross is Zapdos is inevitably going to be like a huge pain for this team. Another Pokemon that can be kind of scary is Metagross. I mean, Metagross is just a good Pokemon, right? But I do have like some tools against it. My own Metagross. If I can trade Metagrosses, that's excellent for me. And if Gyarados is sort of the other check. It ends up taking sleep quite a bit, but otherwise it can be annoying. Like it does come in on lax pretty easily. But one thing I'll note is that with my current lax set, it's not like unless I stuck Earthquake on it, it wouldn't be that much better against Metagross, and even with that, Metagross is still coming in and wreaking havoc. So I don't really think it's worth it. It's better to be able to hit Gengar, be able to hit Skarmory, be able to hit Zapdos with your stab. Let me switch sides here. Reset. Come on. In this one, I don't know why Pokemon Showdown is not playing nice with me today. There we go. This game I played Dice, who obviously I've known for years. I wouldn't say I've ever been like friendly with him, but all the way back in the early first and maybe early team tour I ever played on Smogon, it was Premier League. It was back in like 2015, 14. With like Melee Mewtwo as manager, and Dice was on the team as well as BKC. And like looking back, it was pretty cool. Maybe Dice was just in the chat and not on the team. It has been forever. But yeah, obviously I know who he is. I know that he's an extremely talented player. And he is bringing something interesting. He does lead off with the Smeagol, so I know that this is going to spore. And I made the wrong decision. I probably should have stayed in with Metagross since it's the Pokemon I rely on least defensively. It's an offensive asset, but not a defensive one. But instead I was like, he probably doesn't have Gengar. So I end up taking Spore with my Pursuit Tyranitar. This turns out to be a big mistake, but as you'll see, I get lucky, and I managed to make things work anyway. But yeah, I want to go again on sort of in terms of the threats, like and like Metagross being a threat. There are three things that make it worse to face. One of them is Rock Slide coverage for Gyarados, pretty obvious. It's not a game changer to see, like not game ending to see that. Lumberry on it can be really annoying, especially on like agility. But again, it's not necessarily game breaking to see that. My Breloom is max speed, so it'll outspeed Metagross's as one of the advantages of that. And yeah, agility as well is painful because this team is pretty slow, but it does have a few Pokemon that actually outspeed Metagross. On my game, to get above 1500, I was like, I can't remember if I was above or below 100 games in. That game, it was a weird game. My opponent had like Thunder, Fire Blast, Hidden Power Grass, and Focus Punch Dragonite, and a lead like Icy Wind or Ice Punch, Never Melt Ice, Jirachi, all sorts of weird shit. But I ended up just like completely losing the game when I was in like a very good position. I had my Breloom in against this Agiligos. Before it had done anything, I Spore, and it has like Lumberry. Agility's up. I Mach Punch to get some damage on it, and then it hears Breloom. And then it reveals like Rock Slide, and I think my Gyarados is weak enough it would have died to Medium Mash anyway, due to some luck earlier in the game. Thanks to a crit, I think. But if it didn't have Rock Slide, then it wouldn't have been that bad. But that was just seeing like the absolute worst, most legitimate, absolute worst, like actual legitimate set that messed up this team. But worse than that, I've also seen Sleep Talk Metagross, which I've heard a little bit about being legitimate, and Rest Talk Melodic, which just isn't, but has caused me problems before as well in terms of just like dumb ladder shit. But yeah, speaking of the match, you saw there how I got very lucky to get rid of his Gengar with Ice Beam's freeze. It's just no getting around that. I needed that to win after taking the Spore with the wrong Pokemon. But you'll also note how I did a Hidden Power earlier on Aerodactyl. So did like 9%. I think at that point Gengar was revealed, of course. So Hidden Power was like a safe move that would have hit that, but also hits Aerodactyl. With Gengar out of the picture. With Gengar out of the picture, Aero is his next best answer, but getting the Hidden Power on it is enough to stick it in range of Hydro Pump, as are a lot of moves on this team. Like any attack from Metagross, of course, Pursuit from Tyranitar, or really any move, Mach Punch from Breloom, Ice Beam from Claydol, or I guess Explosion, or like Body Slam, or Shadow Ball, or Focus Punch, any of those moves from Snorlax. All of those are enough to put it in Hydro Pump range, because you only need to do 30% to it to get it in range pretty much. So here I've boosted up, and then, relying on hitting, which is not the greatest thing. That's one downside to this slightly gimmickier set, is of course, why can't you have a gimmick that at least uses 100% accurate moves? But no, it's not lucky for things to be that way. But yeah, in this game, having Hydro Pump Gyarados on top of the freeze on Gengar, making up for like my earlier mistake, just won me this game. Very nice game against a very strong player. So, yeah, I mean, no doubt that luck was definitely pretty key there, but on top of that, the idea worked. So, very happy with that one. I've got two more games. I'm sure this is probably a long ass video, like 30, 40 minutes, but I hope you enjoy it. I mean, I know BKC does these long ass ones. Hopefully, you guys show me the same respect, even though I'm nowhere near as good or as varied of a battler as him. But let's see. This guy, Lover and Fighter, 1348 versus me here at 1588. This is one where I explode turn one into a Gengar. So, you know, the fact that I'm showing it means that kind of showing how even when like stuff like that can go wrong, this team still like flows so flexible and so synergistic that there's still a lot to work with here. So let me stick this onto fast. I think I'll also post links to these replays in the description as well. But it's I'm kind of running a bit out of stuff to say at this point. But let me just let me stick this on to like the absolute fastest thing since we've gone on quite a while. Actually, I might even just like skip through and see if there's anything sort of really interesting here. Maybe I bookmarked a bunch of games ages ago, basically to include if I ever did this. Now I decided to do this like ages after like I peaked and everything else. I can't quite remember like the full significance of some of these games. I mean, I was at like what 1548, I think. So this would have been sort of as I was 1588. So this would have been sort of pushing the climb higher and higher when I was sort of only needing like a few points for a win each game. But just like the consistency that I developed with this team was just like so lovely. That this team really is like a joy to play when you really understand it and like all that it's got going for it. And it's been cool for me learning a team because often I come up with an idea and then I come up with a team that's okay or whatever, but I don't normally grind 200 ladder games with it. It's just not ever really been who I am. There's only been like a couple moments in my life when I sort of grinded ladder a bit, and this has been one of those. Yeah, look at also here how like the Mac Punch plus like Hydro Pump together just helps me clean this up really tidily. It's Dragon Dance and Hydro Pump for the win. Although, yeah, I don't even, yeah. Hydro Pump for swag, isn't it? As well. Oh, actually, wait, that's all of the games. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy to end it here. But yeah, just guess I wanted to say sort of about me like learning teams and so on. It's not normally sort of been how I've operated. I've more often come up with ideas like Thief Politoed, like the defensive Umbreon, Choice Band Solrock. That one was very much sort of grew into a team really quickly, and then Linear like found it and then put his own sort of weird altercations to on it that evidently worked, and he's won some really important games with it. But it's also there are changes that don't quite fit how I think about Pokemon as well, which is it's kind of great that we all see this game in such different ways. But yeah, there may be more of these. Maybe I'll do ones just like featuring cool sets. If I come up with any more of them, I've come up with a fair few. I think I've done more than my part, but it's something I like to do. Coming up with these neat ideas and just like filling in the little gaps in the metagame where other people haven't touched them yet. So yeah, much love. If you check out like the other stuff on my channel, I've done other Pokemon videos, but not on this channel. Like if you can dig some up, I know where they're hidden, but they're not easy to find. They're not on this channel. But on this vid channel, I do have like music I've made and stuff. I play piano. There's like some other songs and mixes and stuff. So yeah, much love. You can always hit me up on Discord. I'm not really committed to anything else Pokemon related at this point, but hit me up on Discord and I'm always down to chat. So Peace out, my lovelies, and adios.